Hey guys, how are you today? Evidently, when I went live, I'm out of storage space, so I don't get to record today's, but you'll see it live on the recording on Facebook or YouTube. But I can't keep a copy for myself because I have to get rid of some stuff. I love it when I have to clean up one more space. So good to see you guys. Good to see you, Anne. Glad you could catch one today. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Cindy and Marcia and Robin. Robin, how are you? Saw you a couple of weeks ago. Oh, well, you think he's going to forget? A month's expecting me to cook tonight. I'm not sure about that. We'll see how that works. So good to see you guys. Glad you could join me today. Today is going to be somewhat of a short one because if you haven't noticed, my hair has not been cut in 3 months. So life has happened and it is time to get a haircut. And that's happening this afternoon. So we got to get it. Got it when she's available. You got to go. So obviously that is my day today. So um, some questions have popped in, so I will try to address those first. Applique Wizard Swanee Stitches. I have done that many times, but I will go ahead and do it one more time. Thanks. I appreciate that my hair looks great, but it is just getting too long for me. It's more trouble than it's worth right now. So let's see here. That one I've done many times. I'll go over it one more time for you guys to kind of get an idea of it. Then the other one was creating a decorative fill or a quilting fill and how to use font mapping again. So those are the ones we're going to do. I know I've done it many times. None of these are new topics, just so we're clear on that. If you go back and watch, and except for last week, I have been pretty good about going in recently and putting in what we covered that week. But last week, I forgot to do that. So somebody might want to shoot me a text as to what I did or a Facebook message as to what I actually did last week. Because honestly, I could not tell you. It was a crazy week. So let's get started, and we're going to be in PE Design today. I do have BES4 pulled up if we need it, but right now I'm going to hang out in PE Design today. So let's see here. All right, let's start with the Applique Wizard, and I'm going to just do basics of the Applique Wizard first. The biggest thing you need to know is it needs to be a closed shape. By that, I mean it has to be able to have a fill stitch in it. The other thing that you need to know is that if any part of this shape crosses over itself, so I'm going to make this one cross over, even though it's still a closed shape and you can see that there are two fill areas there, it's crossing over itself. So if I try to do my Applique Wizard, it will let me add, but it will not let me replace. Okay, so when I click OK, you'll notice it goes around the exterior of the item. So that is the biggest thing. One of the biggest things you need to remember is that it has to be an area that doesn't have a part of itself that, I meant to do replace, that doesn't cross over itself. So this one will let me replace it because it didn't have an area that crossed over itself. Now, having said that, sometimes the area that crosses over itself is something teeny tiny that you can't actually tell. So you may have, I'm going to make this let's see here. You may have an edit node that somehow got popped up on top of another edit node, and you didn't realize that that was happening. I'm going to make this to where it kind of shrinks in here a little bit on both sides. Let's see if I can make this to where it's not obvious. Let's see, that one right there is the one that's making it to where it is so obvious. You know, it's much harder for me to mess something up than it is for me to fix it. That little guy, not there. Yes, there. And I'm trying to mess something up so you guys will see what happens. But I can't mess it. I'm not messing it up real well. But anyhow, you may not see that that is crisscrossed. If you're looking at it from a large angle, doesn't look that bad, right? So if I select it and I do the applique wizard, you'll notice add and replace are still there. So let's see what happens with that one. It did it, but it kind of gave us a little wonky look to it. I didn't crisscross enough. So let's try one more time. I'm not real good at messing things up, I will have to say. But let's see here. Let's see what happens with that one. Nope, still let me do it. So really it should be pretty obvious when you see it that if it's crisscross like that and there could be 2 fill stitches, when you try to do your applique wizard, it will not take. No matter what you do. All it will do is let you do the add button. And that is new to this particular version. So in version 10 or below, if this were existing, or even if it's just a little crisscross, it would not let you do what you want to do. It would have no, that wouldn't actually even activate for you to be able to use. Okay. So that's your basic wizard. Now let's see here. Let's go to my import tab and let's go from outline shapes. If I try to come and grab this one and turn it into an applique, you'll notice the only thing that's available is add. And the reason that is because it's not an enclosed shape. So it doesn't have a fill stitch. So if it doesn't have a fill stitch, then it cannot be turned into an applique itself. You can just add to the exterior of it. So let's say we were doing text. If you come in and grab your text tool, and let me type in Cindy here. Let's make this a little bit bigger, and I don't want curls because that one will be funky. Let's pick something. When you're doing text, it does need to be kind of bold, and you do need to space it out a bit more. So your character spacing or your kerning, I usually use kerning because it works for everything, will space your text out. So now if we come in here, we should be able to use the applique wizard. If you choose add, it's going to go around the outside edge. And there are times that I want to do that. If I choose replace, it's going to actually replace the text that is there. Now, this little button right here is big. If you have something that has an enclosed area in it, like this D does, see how that D has that center area? You want to make sure you choose create an applique with whole sewing. And what that does is it creates the outside piece and the inside piece. And it does them in the correct orientation. So if we look at this, let's zoom in. Do you see how the lines of stitching that are going underneath there? This is your applique material stitch. This is your placement stitch, or your tack down stitch, basically. And then the satin stitch is your covering stitch. On the center piece, those lines will be towards the center if you've created an applique with whole sewing. They will be to the outside edge on the exterior piece. That's so that when you do that text and you've cut out the hole, that the hole doesn't, you don't have a gap, okay? That the fabric or the heat transfer vinyl or whatever you're choosing to put underneath there as your applique material will actually be covered. So that is what that is. So that's what I would tell you. Now, Lois, I'm not sure what you're asking, honey. Yes, you can bring in an image file and you can trace over the top of it, but I'm not sure what you're asking on that one. No, Cindy, I never did decide on a new name. I keep pondering that one and I just can't help. I cannot find one that I actually like and can stick with. So I have not come up with that one yet. So thanks, Sherry. I'm looking forward to Wisconsin. I've got to make my plane ticket today. I keep forgetting to do that. My husband, I think, wants to go with, but he hasn't decided. So exciting that you're getting your upgrade tomorrow. Yay. That's exciting. All right, guys. So let's go back and let me turn off my comment here. And let's see here. Next up on the list, if there's anything else on the app, those are your basics of your applique wizard. I mean, if you have something that's an interior, you want to do that. Now, let's say I have a design. Let me come over here and see what I've got in here. All right, let's say I wanted to turn the pink in this into an applique. Well, there's a couple of things I could do with this one. First, I'm going to change to a smaller hoop so you guys can see a little bit better. I would go to my stitches tab and I would divide by color because the only thing I want to play with is this pink piece. Okay. So once I've got the pink piece, I would select it in the sequence view, click my select patterns icon, and I would convert that to an outline. And I'd say convert the whole to an outline. So now you'll notice that I have an outline there. So when I go and click on that pink, I can then hit my applique wizard. I may not actually have to do that. But that create an applique with a whole sewing, that is, do I want it to have a satin stitch around that area, or do I want it just to fill under it? If I don't want it to create both parts, I would take off the create an applique with whole sewing and click OK. So that one's a little bit thick for this teeny tiny flower, but that gives you an idea. So let's see here. Let's see if I can do it without doing the convert to block. Let's go home, applique wizard. We can add it, but we cannot replace. So that would be the one thing I would tell you. I'm going to switch back to metric because I'm a metric kind of girl when it comes to my applique wizard. So if I want that, once again, convert to outline, convert whole to outline. So that gives that whole part an outline, and then come back in and select it, go to the home tab, applique wizard, and then you can replace it. Minimum width for me is 2.5 if I'm doing a zigzag. Just that makes sure that your applique material is going to get caught and is not going to fray. You also have different covering stitch types. You have an E stitch, which is your blanket stitch, a V stitch, which is kind of an invisible applique stitch, and a chain stitch that you can select from. If you choose the E stitch, you'll notice the tack down stitch is automatically taken off. So go ahead and click OK, and then you'll see what you've got. So you do have applique stitch options. That is, for this teeny tiny item, that's not the best choice of stitch, but you can change how far apart they are to where it shortens those stitches. But you can see that 2.5 is digging a little deep down in there. If we look at this in stitch view, you can see those are your actual applique stitches, and that's digging a little bit too far down in for that teeny tiny area. Now, let's go to the next question. The next question was how to font map. So we're going to go up to our options pull-down menu and choose the font creator program. Our font creator program will start. Now, we want to come up here and choose new font mapping. And I say set my standard character height from the actual embroidery file. That way I know that I'm not making a mistake myself. So I go ahead and let it do its thing. And then I go and hunt for the folder that has the font files in it. So let me find one that might have some. I go into, we'll just do one from the program because I know there's some in here. So if I go into my font, let's go here. User mapped sample 1. So there we go. It's bringing them all in. Now, I just basically you want to say yes, okay. So that's what we've got. Select the M. Say okay. And it will actually set the character from the M. The M should be the largest character in the map. Now, once you've done that, there's this little button called multiple import. Select the multiple import key. It brings all of these guys up and they're all in there and they all have red lines around them. Select import and they will all come in all at the same time, and just close the window. So now if you look, if I look in here and I go to my B is mapped, my C is mapped, my G, they're all mapped, okay? And then you save that. I'm going to do File, Save As, and I will save it as Cindy Live. And these are PFK fonts. That's what they come in as. Now, let's say it wasn't quite that cut and dry. Let me see if I have one on my computer. I'm going to do new font mapping again, set standard character, and let me see if I have one on my computer that we might be able to use. If I look in my let's see here. I'm looking to see if I have anything on here called alpha mapping. If y'all see one, let me know. Alpha mapping book files. This will work. So here's my uppercase letters. That's what I'm going to select. Click OK. Oh, there they are. Okay. So now I'm going to scroll down and find my M. Select it and click OK. So these are ones that are not built in. Now, multiple import. This window comes up and say import. And those should all be in the correct location. So this window also pops up, just so you know. Just keeps popping up on the other screen. And you can see that they're all in their correct location. So I'm going to close that one. Now I'm going to go back in and say, add remove characters. And I'm going to say I want to add A through Z. Let's see, will it let me? I've never tried to do it this way. Usually I just come back in and do them after. Let's see what happens here. Nope, not going to let me do that. So let's see here. I am going to say add remove characters. Or we can do single import. Let's do single import. I take that back. I can do multiple import again. There we go. So now, I just had to remember how I was going to do this. File open, and we're going to go to lowercase and say OK. And now we're going to, all of those should be selected as well. Let's import them and see where they go. See if they went into the right spaces. Yep, they did. So since they were named correctly, they're going to go in the right spaces. Now this one, we need to think about it again in just a second. I'm going to do multiple import one more time because I do have number files over there. Let me find those, and punctuation and numbers, and import those. So now let's see what we've got. That should be my punctuation and numbers. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. There we go. Okay. So now if I know that there are certain letters that need to be dropped below and above the baseline. So for instance, my G, it's right and smack dab in the middle. That will not work. So I would take it and move it down where I think it needs to go. And if I look at it with the rest of the letters and it doesn't look right, then I'll come back in here and play with it. So let's go to the, what else would be there? Y. And it would need to go down. So let's save it. And we'll save this as Cindy Live 2. Okay. So there we go. Now let's go into P Design and let's refresh the window. Control R should refresh us, but if it didn't, we'll shut down and restart. Now, when you go to your text tool, you choose the last option. That's your font, user mapped fonts. And let's see if Cindy's font, nope. Okay, so let's start a new one. Let's just start a new window of P Design. And text, user mapped fonts. So Cindy Live, Cindy Fonts, Cindy Live 2. Here's the Cindy Live 2. So there we go. Now, if I didn't like where that Y is, okay, yeah, J, P, and Q. Thanks, Marsha. But you get the idea. It's not rocket science, guys. It is one of those that you can play with yourselves. I've basically given you the tools you need to do it now. If you don't like the way it looks, you can always adjust it here, or you can go back to your font mapping, and I'm going to say I want that to go up a little bit and over a little bit. And resave it. Go back over here and let's see here. Control R should refresh. But I should only need to come back and select this one more time. There we go. So once you go back and select it, it will pop it back in the spot that it's supposed to be. But you can come back in and futz with it. So let me come back over and answer questions. That is a beautiful font in it. It is a nice little font. And the persona, I'm sure, did a lovely job. It's there forever because you save it in the default location, My Fonts. Okay. So it is there unless you crash your computer. Oh, it's so much fun, Debbie. You'll have a blast with your persona. Lois, I'm not sure what you can fill in any applique area with anything you want after you've created an applique. If I'm answering the correct question, I'm not absolutely sure that I just did. But font mapping in P Design is not that hard. Don't be intimidated by it. You may have to, if you have to drag them in one at a time, that's not hard either. So if I came in here and I said new font mapping, set standard character height from the file. Let me come back in here and let's choose the uppercase letters. I would choose the M. That would be my letter to set my character height based off of. But if I want to bring in a single letter, all I do is single letter and go find the A and import it. So it's not hard to do it. Then you go to the next letter in the alphabet, B, and import. But truly, if you can get them all to go in at one time, it's a whole lot faster. Okay. Now, let me go to Caroline. Let's wait, there's one more. Diane, I'm not sure what you're asking about. I'm not sure what you're asking about. I'd have to see a example of what you're asking about. Like Mama, but stitches as sketchy. We don't have a sketch stitch. You'd have to make it more, I'm trying to think. Let me ponder that one. I'm not real sure exactly what you want, Diane, but I'll think about it. Yes, Shirley, we will be doing another Education Connection video. Heather and I both have family members who have health issues. So right now we are having a hard time connecting on that. Her mom is ill and my brother is ill. So we are both in and out of our homes. So just keep that in mind. Nope. They don't talk to each other, Cindy. So if you map them in BES4, they're mapped in BES4. If you map them in PE Design, they're mapped in PE Design. They don't cross communicate. Okay. Julia, I have not covered font mapping in either of my books because it's a new feature that I have not gotten to writing yet. That is, I mean, that's bottom line. New features in 11, I have not gotten around to writing. I have addressed them all in lives in the past 2.5 years, but I have not gotten down to writing them. Y'all got to understand, to write a book, I have to actually sit in a room, close myself in for months at a time, and do nothing else. That is otherwise the I I lose my train of thought. So it is a matter of closing myself in, making things happen, and just sitting there and doing it until I have it ready and get it in. It's one of those things. So if the squirrel goes by, my train of thought is gone. There's a lot that goes into that, and it is not. I can't jump from one thing to the other back to that. It's just doesn't happen because I lose it. I just it just happens. So um, we both plan on doing another live. We just have to figure out a good time to do it. Like I said, we both have family members that are ill, so we are doing it. No, I can't write a book. I wish I could just snap my fingers and say, every live that I've done in the past couple of years, why don't you just convert yourself into a book for me? That would take care of my issue totally, because honestly, I have covered free for you guys in the last 2.5 years every brand new feature that there's out there, and you can go back and watch it over and over as many times as you want. Now, having said that, don't ask me which live it is, because if you go back and do the math, there's one for every week. So that's 52 weeks, give or take, in 2.5 years times that times two. So we're at 104 plus about another half a year. So there's a lot of videos out there that I've done if you sit there and think about it. Okay. Now, what else was I going to say? Oh, okay. So let's go to the programmable stitch creator and talk about how to create a decorative background. Now, I personally, if I'm doing a quilting background, it really depends on what you want to do, honestly. Go up to the options pull down menu and choose your programmable stitch creator for this one. Okay. Now, there are two methods that you could use for this. And let me see if I can find a pumpkin that we can use. Hold on. Let me open my Canvas workspace. Let's see here. I think there's a pumpkin in here somewhere. Let's look and see if we have one in our stamps. Not there. Okay. Oh, let's go into our projects. Okay, so my computer likes to make me do this 6 times before it decides it wants to like me. Let me turn off my firewall for a minute. I do not understand what McAfee has against my Canvas workspace. But if I turn off my firewall, we should be able to do this. Even though I've allowed this presence of this program, it just does not like me. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay, so here's a pumpkin. So I'm about to show you a cheater's way. It's going to make 3 times, guys. Oh, nope, it's going to make me do 4. No. Come on. There we go. 5th time was charm this time. There it goes. So here's your cheater's way of doing this. The first thing I'm going to do is go into my edit menu, and we are going to subtract. Nope. We're going to weld. Nope. We're going to remove overlap. Divide. Not going to let me do any of those. Okay. So we'll just come in here and take out these edit nodes. Let's subtract those bad boys out. Now we're left with a pumpkin. Okay. To get the pumpkin as an image, let's come over here and turn off our grid so that we have one solid outline. And then we can come in with our window snipping tool, choose new, take picture, just draw around it with a square. There's my picture. So now I am going to come over here into my programmable stitch creator, go view. We're going to open template. Oops, it's going to make me save it. So unlike layout and editing, it's going to make me save it. So let's do File, Save As. So here's my save. And let's go to the desktop. Pumpkin. Okay, so open template, and where's my desktop? Pumpkin. There it is. Okay, I'm going to turn off my grid because to do a round area, you need to turn off your grid. Take it all the way down to nothing. We did a decorative, a pumpkin, excuse me, we did a motif last week, but I'll do another one here for you. So this is going to be a motif stitch. And a motif stitch, once again, let's modify this so it's not quite as dark for us. If I go home and I go to my select point tool, you have a blue point and a red point, beginning and end. Everything must come from within. It will be easier for me to make this bottom heavy than top heavy. I have to go over one of them or the other twice. So in order to not have a line going across the center. So click and drag, click and drag. Oops. And just basically you're clicking, let go of it, click and let go, then click back on it and drag it around. And that is how you make a motif stitch. And motif stitches can be put along stippling lines in P Design. They can be on outlines. They can be as fill stitches in P Design. You can use them however you would like to. So we're going to keep going here though, and I'm going to finish getting around this top part. You'll notice with curves, I click a few more times than I do with straights. Now, the way I always do this is I click out here and grab one, and then I click and I take this and drag it over across. Okay. And then we come back in and pull down. Click and drag. Because I have to choose top or bottom. And personally, I think for this one, the bottom will be easier to do. There's not as many areas to go back over the top of. You can get too many points in here, girls and boys, just so we know. You don't want to go nuts with the points, but you do want to get enough to make the shape. Because at some point you can overwrite the stitching because you've added too many. So here we go. Just add enough to make it round. Now, what you don't see is my preview window. So let me bring my preview window up. Let's go to view and put the check mark on preview, and then you can see what I have so far. Let me find my mouse. There we go. Bring this over. So now you can see I have that line going in the center. That's why I said you have to go back over one side or the other twice. So we're going to take this one and move it over the top of the other one. And when I leave that in the center, that allows me to know where I'm at, so I know exactly how much I have to finish taking care of. But everything has to be made between the blue and the red dot point. If you use a smaller image and you put it above that line, it would stay above that line when you go to stitch it. Okay. It would not fill the entire space. You have to kind of understand the way these work when you go to use them. So it is best to but it's best to kind of fill your area like I did. I could make it even bigger if I wanted to, but you don't necessarily want to stay above the line because it will stitch above the line. And if you're trying to put it along a stippling path, that's not optimal. Okay, so there we go. Now, I would go in here and futz. If you all go watch last week's, I'm pretty sure I went over how to futz and get these back into position. So the arrow keys on your keyboard will let you make sure that you match your little edit nodes up. You don't want shadows, because if you're making them bigger, the shadows will make double lines, and you're trying to make it as close as possible. And I'll just sit around, use my arrow keys until I get them pretty much sitting on top of each other. I'm not going to finesse this one. We're just going to do File, Save As, and we'll save this one as Pumpkin Motif. And let me go into my P Design folder, which is on the C drive. Program Files, x86, Brother, P Design 11, and Pattern. Okay, so I'm going to call this one A Pumpkin, so that it goes to the front of my list. Okay, now, if instead I wanted to do this as a decorative fill, let's do New Decorative Fill Pattern. Go to your View tab again, open your template, and we would do the same one. Let me choose Pumpkin. Evidently, I typed 2 P's in there. On this one, I would make it fill this space as much as you can, as close as you can get it to filling the shape would be the best that you would be your best option. And we'll figure that out in just a second, but I think I'm pretty darn close. And then you go grab your drawing tool, and I'm going to go and make this a little bit darker so I can see it, and choose where you're going to start. So I'm going to start right here. Oh, so okay, there's the edge of my motif. So let me come back in and let's modify that template. I made it too big. So I'm going to shift key in a little bit. Actually, we're just going to make it within those parameters first, and then I'll make it out. I'll pull it out. Home, drawing tool. Choose where you want to start it. You know, for this one, I have not tested it out today, guys, so I'm just going to go ahead and go around, and we'll see what we get. This one, it does not matter that you start and stop at a certain end, unless you're trying to keep it from having a jump stitch. So usually you will want to start it where you're planning on stopping. There are some uniquenesses to this, and this is the other reason the book is not finished. I am kind of stuck, and I can't get an answer from Japan as to why I can't make them connect without a jump stitch, even if I make them connect. So that is my stumping spot, just so you all understand. At this point, I just haven't gotten that one. I've tried everything I can think of, and none of it seems to work. So we'll take that. Okay. So you can see my pumpkins are not matching, are not touching up. So if I want them to touch up, I've turned off my image so I can see what we've got going on here. I'm going to come and make this bigger. Let's go Shift key. Actually, I'm skipping the Shift key. I'm just making them to where they should touch up somewhere. Okay, so now that shows me I'm not touching because it doesn't like where I've connected. So I am going to try moving these nodes over a little bit. Looks like I have them connecting now. It's going to touch up with that bottom node right there. All right, let's see what happens. So let's do, I'm going to make this one go over a little bit more, so the sides of my pumpkins touch too. All right, let's try that. File, Save As. And we'll call this A Pumpkin. Okay, so in layout and editing, if we go grab a shape, pick a shape, any shape, and I choose stippling stitch, and I go to my sewing attributes. If I come down here and put a check mark in front of use motif, I can then come and pick my motif stitch that I just made, a pumpkin, right there. And there you can see my pumpkin is along my path, okay? So that's one way you can use it. And you can space these out. You can make them smaller. You can make them bigger. If I change my spacing or my motif spacing, it tosses them further apart. You can come in here and resize them. If you maintain aspect ratio, you will generally have better results. But now you can see that my pumpkins are getting larger, okay? To use your decorative fill, come in and choose decorative fill. Come back in and click that little button, and here is my, oops, where did my mouse go? Here is my A pumpkin. Oh, wow, my pumpkin is monster size. So let's take this down to about, let's go 20. So there's your pumpkin used as a repeating decorative fill. And you can change the direction. You can have fun with that and play. That one would also be available if you go, let's import something here. I'm going to put this here and we'll go background fill, decorative fill, and next. So if I click here, oh, there's my decorative fill. That's the last one I picked. So it shows up automatically for me. And let's come in here and make it like 25 and update our preview. If you exclude internal patterns, it will map itself around the actual item that you're doing. Click OK, and there you go. One thing I like to do is look at it in stitch view to see how many jump stitches I've got. And you can tell I have some there. That is my question of I'm not sure exactly how to make that fix. That has to be on your end, Vanessa. There is no focusing of my camera. So, I mean, it's got to be on your internet. And unless my internet bandwidth is down, y'all tell me if it's the other or not, but it should not be a big deal. So anyhow, that's how it works, guys. All right. I got one more question to answer, and then I have to go. So this is going to be a quick one. This is how do you get your advanced quilt design software? This one's in for Caroline. So Caroline, I'm stopping this guy right here. And we're going to come in. If you go into your program files, so go to the C drive. Actually, this is going to be in program data. So if you go to view and let's see here, where is that on Windows 10? Show, you want to have show hidden items show up, okay? That's going to give you what you need. Don't play in here too much, gang. Program data, and then it would be, nope, program data, then it's going to be pace setter. And advanced quilt design, library, blocks and quilts. My blocks, my quilts, okay? These two are your items. So if you open that up, you'll see the ones that you've created. And if you open this one up, you'll see the ones that you've created. So those two file folders are the two that you would want to copy over to your new computer. Okay. So I think I've answered everybody's questions for the day. And yes, you do need to deactivate your advanced quilt design software from your other computer. That way, when you go back in, if you open it on the new computer and it won't activate, you can call Brother and tell them that you had to get a new computer. Okay. All right, guys, if there is nothing else, I do need to get going. So I will see you. Yes, I'll see you next week. So I'll see you next Tuesday. Send in your questions, please, before today so that I can have a chance to kind of look at them and see what we can cover. And y'all have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.